Welcome to In the Cool of the Day, and I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Sharon Anderson, and this is your segment, From Behind the Podium, Conversations about Law and Faith. And I am so excited to be back with you again. We've been on a hiatus for about a year, and this is now my anniversary show. And what a better way to share my anniversary with a very dear friend of mine, Archie Breslow.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Archie.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Archie. Archie is a wonderful, wonderful gentleman and is the CEO of an organization, Coach to Coach Mentoring. Archie is a 28-year veteran of the Metropolitan Police Department, and Archie also was on the security detail, I think the head security detail of 5 mayors in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
And so today for this anniversary show, we want to talk about mentoring. It's Black History Month, and one of my passions is to make sure that our children get the information that they need to be the best that they can be. And the wealth of Archie, the information that Archie brings to the subject of mentoring is really, really important to us. So again, Archie, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
So tell me, Archie, and let's talk to the audience as well, why mentoring? I mean, you've had such a varied career. What made you get into mentoring and coaching?
So mentoring, I always say it's a gift from God that God put on my heart to actually go out and mentor kids and also families. So once I realized I was very effective in doing so, I said, hey, this must be my calling. And I'm a solution type of mentor. I want results. I don't like to just talk to a family member or talk to a young man or a young lady just to be talking. I actually want to come to some type of resolve when I talk to them.
Sure. So how do you do that? How do you know when you've gotten to the point that you actually are beginning to see some success? Do you have a certain model that you use, that you implement?
So I'm a praying man, so I will always pray before I actually talk to my individuals that I mentor. And with that, I kind of get their spirit. So my mentoring is based off of the connection and the spirit that I get from a young lady or a young man. And once my spirit connects, then I go from that point. And it's all about consistency.
Yes. And
I do a lot of listening. The average person that deals with a mentor, they are threatened because yet again, a mentor is somebody else that's going to dictate and that's going to try to tell them that they're doing a bad job in life.
Right.
Me as a mentor, I'm there to walk side by side, hold your hand, and listen to you, and we come together to get some type of resolve based off of where you want to go in your life. Not based off of what I'm telling you to do, it's based off of what's already inside of you.
So you empower and you bring out, the gifts and the talents that an individual has, because oftentimes they don't know.
They don't know.
And then oftentimes because of circumstances, life circumstances, all of those gifts and talents are pushed down, so they need someone to bring them out.
And the thing about life, all our answers are inside of us. It takes individuals to pull those answers out.
Yes.
Not to give me the answers, but to pull them out of you so you can actually mold yourself to who you need to be anywhere in your life.
And I know that one of the things that you do in reading your book is that you don't just always mentor the child, you mentor the family.
Families first.
Because oftentimes it's a collective unit that needs to be addressed, because if you just mentor the kid and you give the child the attention, if the family is dealing with some things, then indeed the child can't heal, because once they go back home after the mentoring session, they're still dealing with the circumstances. So how do you address that?
Well, they call me in because there's a disconnect. So when I initially go into a home and talk to families, I automatically talk to the mom and the dad first, or if there's single parenting, whichever individual's in the house. So I get a gauge from who they are.
Okay.
And I actually challenge them on their parenting. It's tough. A lot of people don't want to be challenged on how they raise their kids. But like I tell the moms or the dads, I'm not here to demean you or to demoralize you. We're trying to find a solution on what's really going on with your kid.
That must be difficult. It's challenging.
It's well, now to me is a part of the process. So I ask them, do you need a break? Do you need to think about it? Am I asking tough questions? But we have to get to the core and the pit of the problem before I can even start talking to your child.
Yeah. And so what is the average length of time that you usually mentor someone?
It varies. So my time is valuable because, like I said, to me, I'm like a vessel to help. If you don't appreciate me as being that vessel to help, then I'm not going to stand there knowing that you're not listening to me, or you're not adhering to the principles I'm trying to give you. So actually, I move on to the next.
Okay.
But there are people that I mentor that they always call me. They always invite me to their kids' events, or when they have a problem, they reach out, hey, Coach Archie, this is a situation, what do you suggest?
Yes.
And those families are the ones who, the lives of the kids are actually changing because they are staying connected to what I'm doing.
Right. So they're reaching out to you, and you're reaching out to them.
It's not our job.
It's a two-way street.
It's a two-way street. Mentors are only effective if the people that you're mentoring reach out to you.
Okay. Right. But I'm sure that relationship building takes some time.
It takes time. And it's on a case-to-case basis.
Sure. And do you also train mentors?
That's coming up.
Okay.
That's needed. And there are some guys that when you say you're a mentor, I always sit back and just listen, because I'm always learning as well.
Sure.
But when you go off on a tangent of that I know that's not successful, that's when I step in. A lot of guys, even women that mentor, you thinking mentor is just about talking.
Right.
It's not about talking. It's more so listening than talking.
Yes.
And you have to feel the person, and you can't edify yourself when you're mentoring someone.
That's a good point. So expand on that, because even with adult mentors, a lot of times what we see, certainly with youth to adult mentors, but with adult to adult mentors, you see the mentor, as you said, edifying themselves, glorifying themselves, giving themselves the credit for the success in the mentee's life.
Right.
But at times that demeans and demoralizes the person that's getting the mentoring.
Because you're not going to be there long term. And people pick up on it. Just like when you're in a relationship, your spouse or your mate, they get a feel if you're going to be in it long term, and they also get a feel if you just kind of BSing around. That's the same thing. Especially, it's like 10 times that when you're dealing with a child.
Sure.
A child antenna goes up. They're just waiting for you to be inconsistent.
Right.
Because the majority of their life, they're dealing with people that are inconsistent in their lives.
Yes.
So as a mentor, a lot of times we're strangers to the kid.
Sure.
So you have to build this relationship very quickly so that the kid can actually receive you as someone that's trying to help them.
And they have to feel and know that you're genuine.
Yes.
They have to know that this is coming from a place of love and a place of encouragement and a place where they believe that you want to see their success and that they're just not another peg or a feather in your cap, but indeed you're doing it from the genuineness of your heart.
Yes.
And I know that oftentimes provides a roadblock for a lot of mentors, because the mentee does not feel that the person is actually genuine.
Right.
In their efforts, that they feel that the mentor is getting something out of it, and that the mentee is just another number.
And you have to develop trust. And I often ask the young men and young ladies that I do mentor, what do you expect from your parents? So they'll give me what they expect from their mom and dad. Then I'll be, well, what do you expect from me as a mentor? What do you expect from a person that's a stranger that you come in contact with? So
and what are some of the things that you hear in that situation?
So the main thing with the parents, they want consistency. You know, we as parents, sometimes we get complacent on how we raise our kids. And a child wants 110% of your time.
Right.
Because you're thinking you're giving that time to them, but you're not. You're actually giving your outside world more time than you're giving your child. And you're thinking because you live in that household with your kid that you're doing enough.
So what do we say to parents? I mean, I'm a single mother.
Yes,
my sons are older now, but when you're raising children by yourself, and it could be that it's a broken home now. It could have started off as a two-parent home, but now it's broken. So you're trying to pay the bills, and you're trying to excel in your career, and then you're trying to raise your children.
Yes.
It's hard to give, sometimes it's very hard for a parent. They might want to, but it's hard for a parent to give 100 outside and 100 inside. So what do we say to parents who are trying to maintain that balance?
Right. So the definition of 100% is not numbers. See, we all fall, we latch in on a number.
Sure.
So when you say 100%, my 100% is not going to be your 100%. So what I do tell people is that you have to find isolated times in your household, and I call them board meetings.
Okay.
You have to have board meetings with your kids, and that's on a continual basis. Every Sunday or every Wednesday, you pick a day, 30-minute time periods, and you just actually sit down with your child and not just talk about the problems that they're having, actually share your problems and allow your kids to help you with your situation. So now you become a cohesiveness, like a unit. And that's what kids want to help us more than we even believe. So when we fuss, just like anybody else, they step back. But when we bring them in, now they really don't want to let you down because like mommy and daddy's really bringing them into the fold, and you're actually teaching them about life because they're actually getting it from you.
And I hear what you're saying. The 100% is really dedicated time. So it might only be 30 minutes, but it's 100% of 30 minutes.
Right. It just sounds good to say 100%. That's
exactly.
a mind thing that you play, because if you say 30 minutes, that's 30 minutes to some people is like 5 minutes.
Right, sure, right.
You know what I mean? If you say that number. But if you say
Exactly.
100%, at least you focus in your mind and your attention to actually stand the course.
Right.
Until your resolve comes in.
Right, and that's what I think is so important, even for working parents and single parents, and I'm saying single mothers, but there's single fathers out there who might even, they have careers and they might even be entrepreneurs. There has to be dedicated time at home where the focus is on the child.
You can
so
find
you put
a job.
you put the cell phone down, you put the Instagram down, you put the Facebook down, the social media, and you focus solely on your child, whether it's the homework, whether it's watching a movie together, whether it's reading a book, but that time is critical. And then that opens up that door for, like you said, those discussions.
The discussions.
It's what the child is dealing with. Because I did grow up in a family where we had dinner together every day.
And that's why you turn out to be the person that you are.
To God be the glory.
Yeah, amen. That too.
There's a testimony.
I get it.
There's a testimony.
But you're still wound
amen.
up. You still, those principles are in you.
Yes. But I wasn't as successful with my kids doing that. When I was married, I was, but then once I became a single mother, it was very, very difficult because I wasn't getting home till 7, and then one had to go to football over here and one had to go to football over there, and then by the time we got home, it was 9 or 10. And
but it's okay to not. It's okay to not take a child to football practice.
It's a good point. I had to learn that.
Family first.
I had to learn
It's okay
that.
to say no. You can't do this today.
Well, we're going to come back because what I want to talk about, and after the break, is a little bit more about your process of mentoring, then we want to talk a little bit about your books, and then I do want to talk about the gun violence that we're experiencing,
very
and
important.
how maybe mentoring can help in dealing with youth that are troubled. And we're going to take a moment of silence before we break for the victims of the Florida shooting in Parkland. And so we're going to bow our heads, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to From Behind the Podium, conversations about law and faith. And we've been having a wonderful discussion with Coach Breslow. And before we broke, we were talking about just the process of mentoring and some of the things that families actually have to encounter in making sure that their children are on the right track. And it just makes me think about what happened in Florida, the shooting in Florida. And we know it was a troubled young man who had lost his parents, was in the foster care system, and had recently lost his foster parents. And because you have a security background and a police background, and then also our mentor, just wanted to talk to you a little bit about just what you think about that whole situation. We know we can't go in the back and get into anyone's mind, and we know that we're not protecting this young man who made a horrible, horrible decision simply because he had a troubled background. But we all too often see that children make these choices and bad choices or connect with bad groups because of the lack of a strong figure in their life. So just speak to me a little bit about what your impression was of the shooting and maybe what role, if any, mentoring could play in situations like this.
The thing about life in itself, we as a people, the entire United States of America, we lack consistency. We're consistent in the things that mean the most to us, which is sometimes they're tangible. But things like the young man, the situation happened in Florida, it was a young man, he was probably crying out forever, for a while. And what happened is people get complacent and they get burnt out trying to help an individual. And I call this, what I call it is, I call it a family relay. And what my family relay simply means is 4 to 5 people out of your family take turns in making sure that this young lady or this young man is getting the attention that they need. 5 people working with one individual, you won't get burnt out.
Right.
And that's what we're not actually molding a formula to actually help people in need. Once we think that they're okay,
it's gone.
It's
Hands are
gone.
off. Right. And even we lose kids.
Yeah. And once trouble, you're always trouble.
Yes.
It doesn't go away.
Right. Well,
and that's very traumatic for him to lose as many people
as he's lost. Absolutely. For an adult, it's hard to lose people. So when you're a child, it's difficult to lose people.
And you get expelled. And so if you know he's a troubled kid and he got expelled,
where's the outreach?
So what else is going on?
Right.
And I don't even believe in suspending kids. I don't believe in it.
I don't either. I had a conversation with someone yesterday, and they were trying to expel a first grader.
I don't agree with it.
A first grader, because the first grader was was cursing and he was just extremely disrespectful.
Yes.
But a first grader. So clearly something was going on in the home, but the school system did not have the resources to begin to, like you said, not just target the child and focus on the child, focus on the family to figure out why this child was acting this way.
Guidance counselor offices are very seldomly busy.
Because the child doesn't go in there because they don't feel welcome.
So anytime you have a component of some type of wrongdoing going on in the school, use the counselor's office or the guidance counselor office, whatever you may be, and have a separate classroom where you can still continue to teach those kids something.
Because they get further and further behind.
Or go deeper, right. Bring a mentor in. Once again, there are a lot of us out here that we have solutions because we talk to kids all day. But the powers that be don't want to use our resources, for one, for money reasons, and another thing is they don't want us to find their shortcomings.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So the kids suffer.
That's a good point. And that I think is so relevant today, is that there's churches and church programs that would go out into the schools. And then but the separation of church and state builds that wall up.
There's a wall.
And then there's this territorialism that exists in all of the different areas. So even in the church, you don't have people coming from the outside in the school, they don't let the church in, the school doesn't let outsiders in. And I understand vetting. I understand you have to do background checks, and you understand that from a law enforcement background. But once you get through that, it seems to me that the old adage is so true. It takes a village to raise a child. It really, really does.
It's simple.
And a teacher does not. A teacher cannot do it. You have 30 kids in a classroom, and you have 2 or 3 acting out. They can't just focus on the 2 to 3. So you have to bring in someone that's going to deal with the issue.
Teachers have reputations, and whether it be a good reputation or a bad reputation, a child sees their teacher as their teacher.
Yes.
And their teacher is a barrier, because you're talking your teacher, curriculum, then it's me.
Yes.
So it's hard. I have to pass this class.
Sure.
I have to listen to her instructions or his instructions. And if I'm failing, I can't turn to her because she doesn't know the problems I'm having at home.
That's right.
So now kids act out in the classroom. So now the teacher is strapped because now she has to not just deal with that class, but all the other classes that she deal with.
Yes, and all the other children.
And all the other children.
She all she sees is the problem.
That's all she sees.
And she really doesn't, or he doesn't have the time to look
she's
beyond
human,
the problem.
And they're human, right?
Yeah, to figure out what's going on and as to the why of the problem. And so having those additional resources are critical. So what's the barrier? Why are there these walls up?
The walls are up because, once again, people are selfish. If I didn't come up with the idea, I don't want to edify the person that came with the idea. So in my life, I don't mentor like a whole bunch of kids. I mentor the ones that want to be mentored. And my success rate in doing that is phenomenal. So I have actually went to schools, and I've done it for free for years. But once again, you're not going to treat me like I'm a career day, because I'm not a career day. I have a lot to offer. I have solutions. I've written books. You know,
Yes.
I'm a very successful man in this world where I put myself in position to gain that credibility so that I can go into homes and help.
Sure, sure.
And that's my reason
Absolutely.
for doing what I do.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your books, The Parent, the Coach, the Mentor.
Yes.
Tell us about.
So basically, these two books here.
Yes.
So I wrote my books out of anger because my sons played sports, and I got tired of the profanity from the coaches. I got tired of the coaches that were coaching my kids was egotistical. They were selfish. It was all about winning. They only cared about the kids that can play,
Right.
and they didn't care about the other kids that couldn't play. And then the other spectrum of it was the parents that were out there. The parents was doing the same thing. The parents was yanting and raving, fussing and
Sure.
cussing, just demoralizing our kids. So I said, well, let me write a book based off of my approach to coaching. And my approach to coaching is I don't care about winning, but in return, I do win. Because all my kids that I coach, they love Coach Archie because I'm not fussing, I'm not cussing, I'm not overworking them. They're all in a fun environment.
Yes. Yes.
My least talented kids, I give them the most attention. And I also explain to my best kids why I'm giving these least talented kids attention. So now I'm creating leaders
Yes.
while also building up self-esteem.
Yes, yes, yes. And
So-
so they're all working together.
So now
as
we
a
all
unit.
together.
Yes.
I came with a program called Read Before Contact. And every Monday, the kids will read a book. They will have to read a book in front of their peers. So my coaches was like, well, Coach Archie, when are we going to practice? I said, we're not going to practice until every last one of these kids read at least one paragraph. So what that did was my superstar athletes that weren't super bright in school, now they had to compete against my guys that were A students. So now my guys that were A students, they would stick their head chests out, so now they're reading. So what happened was, now they all came together. So now I got my A students helping my star athletes
With the
their
reading.
with the reading and all that. So now it became
they're balanced.
right. So now they were Coach Archie. What are we reading this week? Are we doing? You know. So it became a movement, and it worked for me for years.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so have we seen any of that replicated in any of the Boys and Girls Club?
And they come on. They have all these TV shows. God bless these reality TV shows dealing with sports. I'm not gonna call any names out, but I just think it's horrible. You don't have to use profanity or to be overbearing to get a young lady or a young man to achieve. You just don't have to do it. And I'm gonna come up with a topic. I have a radio show as well, and I'm gonna come up with a topic. Why do we allow our coaches to cuss at our kids, but if a teacher or administrator cusses at the kid, it's a problem.
And or if the kids cuss at each other,
It's a problem.
But they're just modeling
They're
what
just
they
modeling
see.
what they see and
What
hear.
they see. And that's an aspect of mentoring. It's just bad mentoring, right?
Right. And they won't allow decent mentors to come in and to diffuse that problem.
Yes. What do you think we can do to begin to open those doors up so that people will welcome the information?
So
that you
basically,
have?
the administrators, both in churches, both in schools, both in government, they need to actually have a coalition of guys that have proven themselves to be qualified mentors that start having groups. They come in and bring everybody together and share their ideas. So when you go to these board meetings, you have somebody like myself or other mentors that are actually doing the work and get our input.
Yes. Into the curriculum or into the programming.
Yes, make us a part of the fabric of what are you trying to do.
Yes, and I can see that it would make so much of a difference. And it's so needed. It's so needed.
Kids love Coach Archie.
Yeah, we see that. So I've heard. No, so I've heard. So I've heard. Because we just, the suspension rates, at least in this area, are just so high.
It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time, and kids are losing valuable time.
Yes.
You know, we talk about kids being incarcerated. We talk about adults being incarcerated. So if you suspending a child and sending them home, that's a form of incarceration.
It really is. It really
so that
is.
child has missed out on something that he or she may need to retain that day.
That's right. And the curriculum moves so quickly that when they lose that piece, then it takes so much longer to catch up, and then they don't want to come back at all.
You're giving our kids excuses to fail.
Yes.
If you don't believe in me, I'm not going to believe in myself.
Right.
And some people say, well, that doesn't affect me. It affects everyone.
It affects everybody.
Because your child interacts with one of those kids that are not doing well and the homes are not actually complete.
That's right. That's right. So tell us about your radio show.
So the radio show is come on every Sunday from 10 to 11. It's about families and youth. It's about uplifting our communities.
Yes.
All nationalities. I don't play the race card. It's all cultures,
Yes.
because all cultures are going through the same thing.
Absolutely.
So my radio station is to unify everyone, so we all can be on the same page to build a better America for our kids coming up.
Amen. Amen. And what's the title of the show?
So it's called Let's Figure It Out, and it's the Archie Breslow radio show.
And what you said is Sundays at 10 a.m.?
Sundays from 10 to 11 on 95.9 FM and 1450 AM. And online you can go to WLDCnews.com.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
And do you have a topic coming up for this
So
Sunday?
this Sunday's topic is step parenting.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful show. I was blessed to be on the
and
first
I love,
show.
Yes,
but
yes.
And just following you, the shows really do empower families.
Yes, ma'am.
And you raise topics that are indicative and germane and important to
Yeah,
families.
we need to talk about it.
And it's real.
It's
You
real.
bring on real people with real problems.
problems.
And you offer solutions. And I think
Yes.
that's wonderful, because that's what we need. We need solutions today.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you for what you do.
Thank you for
God
having me.
bless you, and thank you for being on the
Yes.
show. And
Thank
good
you.
luck to you. This has been a wonderful segment from Behind the Podium, conversations about law and faith.